Hi guys, today I'm reviewing Doctor Sleep. This came out in the theaters of October of 2019, and I didn't get a chance to see it in the theaters, but it is now up on HBO or HBO Go, and there's actually two different versions up on HBO. One is the theatrical release, and the other is the director's cut. The director's cut is actually 3 minutes, and today I am reviewing the theatrical release, which is 2 hours and 26 minutes. Okay, so this is based on Stephen King's sequel to his book, The Shining, and he wrote The Shining in 1977, and actually 2013 is when he wrote Doctor Sleep. And so, of course, The Shining was made into the iconic masterpiece classic horror film in 1980 by Stanley Kubrick, and so now Mike Flanagan is the writer, director, and the editor who is given charge to somehow make people happy with a sequel from 40 years ago, with Stephen King actually still being alive, and somehow live up to the standards of one of the greatest horror films ever. So, my expectations going into this were, I really had no idea what to expect, and ultimately I didn't really see too much marketing on it going in. And, I am a fan of The Shining. I'm not like a huge horror fan in general, but like I've watched The Shining maybe 6 times. I've even visited the Overlook Hotel, or the spot where they shot the Overlook Hotel in Colorado. And so, it's definitely a movie that I really love. And I think, honestly, after 39 years of this going into this, I was curious to see this film, but I really kind of had no idea what to expect. This film is starring Ewan McGregor, Rebecca Ferguson, and Kyliegh Curran and Cliff Curtis. We are basically introduced to Danny Torrance shortly after the events of the first film in The Shining, where he had gone through, obviously, major childhood trauma of his experience of what happened in the Overlook Hotel. And we kind of are given his story of how he goes through adulthood and how he has to deal with his gift of the shine. So, he kind of falls into alcoholism, as would be expected, the same with his father, and then also to try to tune out the voices that he hears and to tune out his gift. And we are also introduced to a new villain here. Rebecca Ferguson brilliantly plays Rose the Hat, who is the head of this kind of like, very strange, kind of almost satanic-like cult called the True Knot, which are essentially kind of like somewhat immortals who feed on the gifts of those who shine by absorbing their steam, as they call it. And so we have, a terrifying new villain in this. And I actually found it very interesting because The Shining, essentially, the film of The Shining, could have almost been called The Overlook Hotel, because it was more about the horror that takes place within that confined setting, which that place is an active place full of all sorts of ghosts and some sort of, haunted things going on in The Shining. But of course, this kind of expands the world of The Shining, and it brings it into a very realistic place, but also just really explores the gift of what it means to shine, and also some of the problems that you would go through with having the gift and with being able to see this kind of other spiritual world full of, some sort of evil as well. So it's actually wonderful to be introduced to this new villain, and we're also introduced to this young girl, Abra, who is another girl who has the gift of the shine, and she is actually very powerful with this gift of the shine. And so essentially we're given these 3 different storylines, and for an a film that is 2 hours and 26 minutes, I'm usually pretty hard on films that go over an hour and a half, but this film really used its time incredibly well, and I'm actually pretty interested to see the director's cut and to see what other things that he kept in it. And I actually find it quite interesting that the director's cut is, that he actually edited the film as well, which there's not really that many directors that are editing their own films. I know that the Coen brothers do that, and if you guys can think of anyone else, let me know in the comments. But, really pretty rare for a director in a major Hollywood film to also be the editor. So pretty funny that he's got his director's cut when he's actually the editor as well. I mean, I understand that the director's cut is for, the theatrical release is for reasons to keep it shorter, to keep audiences happier. So it is actually a pretty wonderful time that we live in a world that you get to see both of these kind of put out at the same time. Because you don't it's not a DVD thing. They can just put them both up online and let people stream and pick whichever one they want to watch. But anyway, I got to give it to this film. I don't want to go into spoilers on it, but ultimately, Mike Flanagan just did an incredible job with this, with the weight that must have been on his shoulders to somehow manage all these expectations and to bridge these storylines together and to adapt the book and then also somehow take on the feeling of it being a sequel to The Shining. He ultimately, the pace was incredible, the tone was wonderful, the acting was very, very good. I mean, I thought Ewan McGregor is always wonderful. Rebecca Ferguson, I was not too, I know that she had done the Mission Impossible films, but I was not too familiar with her, and just really brilliant acting. And so ultimately, I'm going to give this an A-. I highly recommend that you check this out. If you're a fan of horror, you're going to like it. If you're a big fan of The Shining, it might be hard to really kind of bring in and start closing up some of the things that your imagination wanted on this. But ultimately, I really think they did a darn good job with this. And once again, it's like this is really a horror, a drama, and a fantasy, and they really fulfilled those aspects so well. So I definitely recommend you checking this out. Either cut, I think, would probably be interesting. I might have to do a follow-up review if I like the director's cut much more, but that's my review of Dr. Sleep. I'm coming with some more reviews really soon, and I'll talk to you guys later.